You know that feeling when you watch a movie for the 100th time and still catch something new? Yeah, that's Order 66 for you. I've been obsessed with this sequence since I was a kid, and after years of rewatching Revenge of the Sith, I realized something. We've been missing so much. Today, we're breaking down the most devastating 4 minutes in Star Wars history, frame by frame. Trust me, you're going to see things you never noticed before. And before we jump in, if you're watching this, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button. I checked the analytics on my last video, and only 2% of viewers were actually subscribed. Come on, guys, we can do better than that. Plus, YouTube's been glitching lately and randomly unsubscribing people, so just double-check you're still locked in. Order 66. Just saying those words sends chills down any Star Wars fan's spine. It's the moment everything changed, when Palpatine's master plan came to fruition and the Jedi Order was wiped out in a matter of minutes. But here's what blows my mind. George Lucas and the ILM team packed these scenes with so many incredible details that most of us completely miss them on a normal viewing. See, I've always been that person who notices the tiny background stuff in movies. While everyone's focused on the main action, I'm catching that random clone trooper doing something weird in the corner, or spotting a piece of debris that tells its own story. And Order 66. It's a goldmine for this stuff. The crazy thing is, this entire sequence from Palpatine's command to Yoda's escape on Kashyyyk only lasts about 4 minutes in the movie. 4 minutes. I honestly wish it was 30. They could have shown us so many more Jedi falling, so many more planets, so many more heartbreaking moments. But what we did get is absolutely packed with detail. Alright, let's start where it all begins. Utapau. That opening shot where the AT-AT walkers are advancing gives me chills every single time. The scale, the smoke, the chaos, it's cinematic perfection. But watch the left side of the screen carefully. There's this clone trooper who gets taken out, and his blaster literally goes flying through the air. I don't know if it was intentional, or just the way the CGI rendered, but it adds this brutal realism to the moment. Now here's something I never knew until recently. Those AT-ATs in the background? They're not just set dressing. Someone on Reddit pointed out that you can see battle droids scattered around the battlefield, and if you look closely at the bridge structure, the right side is completely collapsed with holes blown through it. Those weren't there when Obi-Wan arrived. That damage tells us there was a serious firefight happening while Kenobi was inside dealing with Grievous. But let's talk about the real star of this scene, Commander Cody. Temuera Morrison, who played Jango Fett and all the clones, brought such a specific energy to this character. And here's a cool detail. When Cody walks up to return Obi-Wan's lightsaber, look at his belt. The lightsaber actually clips slightly into his leg armor. It's a minor rendering glitch, but I never caught it before. Just shows you how much detail they were juggling. Then comes the moment. Palpatine's hologram flickers to life, and we get those 3 words, execute Order 66. The way Morrison delivers Cody's "Yes, my lord" is bone-chilling. There's no hesitation, no emotion, just complete obedience. That's the inhibitor chip at work. Now, we know from the Clone Wars that these chips were implanted in every clone's brain during their creation on Kamino. When activated, they override the clone's free will and make them view the Jedi as immediate threats that need to be eliminated. It's tragic when you think about the relationship Cody and Obi-Wan had built over the Clone Wars. Years of fighting side by side, trusting each other with their lives, and it all gets erased in an instant. The sequence where Obi-Wan gets blasted by the AT-AT is executed brilliantly. You see Cody give the order and boom, his faithful Mount Boga takes the hit and they both plummet into the sinkhole. What I love is that Cody doesn't assume Obi-Wan is dead. He knows Jedi are tough to kill, so he immediately deploys probe droids into the caverns below. That's good military thinking right there. Moving on to Mygeeto. This is where we see Ki-Adi-Mundi, the Syrian Jedi Master with the massive brain. This scene is slightly longer than some of the other Order 66 moments, and it really drives home how utterly blindsided the Jedi were. Here's a master on the Jedi Council, one of the most powerful Force users in the galaxy, and he's just caught completely off guard. Watch his body language. He deflects a few shots, looks confused, and then realizes what's happening way too late. The blaster fire is relentless. It shows that no matter how powerful a Jedi is, they can't deflect every shot, especially when they're being ambushed by the soldiers they trust most. The tragedy of Order 66 isn't just the deaths, it's the betrayal. The Clone Wars series really hammered this home by showing us the deep friendships between Jedi and their clone commanders. Rex and Ahsoka, Cody and Obi-Wan, Plo Koon and the Wolf Pack. These weren't just military partnerships. They were genuine bonds of brotherhood. And the inhibitor chips stripped all of that away in seconds. What's fascinating is that not every clone was affected the same way. We learned from the Bad Batch that Clone Force 99, the defective clones, had mutations that made them mostly immune to Order 66. Captain Rex had his chip removed by Ahsoka during that heartbreaking scene on the Venator-class Star Destroyer. ARC Trooper 5s actually discovered the conspiracy before Order 66 happened, but was killed before he could expose it. These stories add so much depth to what we see in Revenge of the Sith. Now we get to Felucia, and this is where George Lucas and his team went absolutely insane with the world building. First off, this planet is gorgeous. The vibrant colours, the alien vegetation, the bizarre creatures. It's one of the most visually distinct worlds in Star Wars. I'm so glad they brought it back in the Clone Wars and made it a playable map in Battlefront 2. But here's what I want you to focus on. The background details during Aayla Secura's death scene. This is seriously dark stuff that most people miss. There are these huge, cockroach-like insects crawling all over dead clone trooper bodies in the swamp. I'm talking massive bugs just chilling on corpses. There are birds too. And if you look really closely, there are 2 birds that appear to be picking at a dead clone's remains. That's brutal. This is the aftermath of a massive battle, and it's not pretty. I also spotted what looks like a glowing slug with eyeballs. Turns out that's called a Jelligrub. I had no idea these things existed in Star Wars until I paused and looked it up. The level of alien ecosystem detail in this one scene is incredible. There are smoking battle droids, destroyed vehicles, and dead clones scattered everywhere. It paints a picture of just how intense the Battle of Felucia was before Order 66 even happened. And then there's Aayla Secura herself. She's completely oblivious to her troops moving into position behind her. Some fans have criticized her combat awareness based on her performance in the Geonosis arena, but I think this scene works because it shows how much the Jedi trusted their clones. She has no reason to suspect them. They've been fighting together for 3 years at this point. When the firing starts, it's execution style. Multiple troopers, multiple angles, no chance of survival. Commander Bly, who had served with her throughout the war, gives the order without a second thought. The inhibitor chip made it possible, but it doesn't make it any less devastating to watch. Cato Neimoidia gives us one of the most visually striking Order 66 deaths with Plo Koon. His Jedi starfighter design is so iconic, that triangular shape that would later inspire the Imperial Star Destroyers. He's flying through these massive bridge structures when his own wingmen open fire on him. There's something particularly cold about being shot down while flying. In ground combat, at least you see your attacker. But Plo Koon? He's just suddenly taking fire from fighters he trusted, and within seconds, his ship is destroyed, and he's gone. The explosion is quick and final. No dramatic last words, no heroic sacrifice, just sudden death. Now let's talk about Kashyyyk, because this sequence gives us multiple perspectives on Order 66. First, we see Yoda, and this is where the difference between a regular Jedi and a Jedi Grand Master becomes apparent. Yoda senses the disturbance in the Force before the clones even receive the order. He feels thousands of Jedi dying across the galaxy simultaneously. That moment where he grabs his chest and closes his eyes, you can see the pain of sensing all those deaths at once. When Commander Gree and another clone move to execute Yoda, our 900-year-old green friend absolutely wrecks them. 2 quick strikes with his lightsaber, and they're done. Yoda doesn't mess around. He knows exactly what's happening and reacts instantly. This is why he survived when so many others didn't. Experience and awareness. The Wookiees immediately help Yoda escape, which makes sense given their loyalty and connection to the Jedi. Chewbacca plays a small but crucial role here. The scene of Yoda climbing up Chewie's back is both adorable and sad. A desperate escape from an order that's being exterminated across the galaxy. While we don't get extended footage of the Temple assault in these rapid-fire Order 66 scenes, we know what's happening on Coruscant simultaneously. Anakin, now Darth Vader, is leading the 501st Legion, who would become known as Vader's Fist, into the Jedi Temple. This is where younglings, Padawans, and Temple guards are slaughtered. The Temple assault represents something even more insidious than the battlefield executions. At least on planets like Felucia or Mygeeto, the Jedi died as warriors in combat. But in the Temple, these were students, children, administrators, Jedi who weren't on the front lines. The Temple was supposed to be the safest place in the galaxy for Force-sensitive individuals, and it became a killing ground. What makes Anakin's fall even more tragic is that we saw him in the Clone Wars forming connections with these younglings. He taught them, protected them, maybe even saw himself in some of them, and then he murdered them. The inhibitor chips don't excuse the clones' actions, but at least they explain them. Anakin made a choice. That's what separates him from the clone troopers. He had free will and chose darkness. Order 66 is more than just an action sequence in a space opera. It's the culmination of a 1,000-year Sith plan. The Rule of Two, established by Darth Bane, required patience and secrecy. Palpatine executed it perfectly. He infiltrated the Republic at the highest level, created a war where both sides answered to him, engineered an army with built-in kill switches, and manipulated the Chosen One into becoming his apprentice. The long-term effects of Order 66 shaped everything that came after. Obi-Wan went into exile on Tatooine, watching over Luke. Yoda hid on Dagobah for decades. Ahsoka, who barely survived with Rex's help, spent years operating in the shadows before joining the rebellion. Cal Kestis, Kanan Jarrus, Quinlan Vos, and other survivors had to completely suppress their Force abilities just to stay alive. The Inquisitors, former Jedi who turned to the dark side, hunted down the few who remained. Recent Star Wars content has continued to expand on Order 66's impact. The Bad Batch showed us clones struggling with their programming. Obi-Wan Kenobi revisited the trauma through flashbacks. Tales of the Jedi gave us more perspectives on Jedi who escaped. Even The Mandalorian touches on it with Grogu's rescue from the Temple. What's remarkable about these 4 minutes of film is how much story they tell without dialogue. The visuals, the music, the editing, it all combines to create one of the most emotionally devastating sequences in the entire Star Wars saga. Every time I watch it, I notice something new. That's the mark of exceptional filmmaking. So next time you watch Revenge of the Sith, pay attention to those background details. Look for the fallen clones on Felucia, spot the rendering glitch on Cody's belt, notice the environmental destruction on Mygeeto. These little touches are what make Star Wars special, the sense that every frame has a story to tell. Thanks for geeking out with me today. If you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button and let me know in the comments what Star Wars scene I should analyze next. Should we tackle the Battle of Geonosis? The Duel of the Fates? Maybe some Clone Wars episodes? You tell me. Until next time, may the Force be with you. Always.